How long can a man stand in a room full of people who just clapped at his own erasing and still keep his hands steady? My brother told 90 guests at his rehearsal dinner that I was never really family, that Grandpa only took me in, and he slid my place card down to the corner by the kitchen doors while they laughed. I am his brother. I folded the toast I'd written for him into my pocket, and I let him finish. I didn't tell anyone that the old man's lawyer had called me that morning, or what was in the envelope he asked me to bring. I'll tell you who walked through those doors at the end. For now, just know the chair Logan gave me faced the only door that mattered. The lakeside room is the kind of place people in Brookfield rent when they want the night to look like more than it is. Long windows, a view of water that goes black after sunset and pretends to be something, round tables with cream cloths, a head table on a low riser, a string of bulbs along the ceiling somebody had paid extra for. 90 chairs. I counted them later when there was nothing else to do with my eyes. At the time, I only knew the room was full, and full of people who knew us. I had written the toast on the train. 4 index cards. I'd practiced it twice in the bathroom mirror that morning, which is a thing a man admits to only after the toast is dead. It was a good toast. It opened with the summer Logan and I built a chair in Pop's woodshop, and Logan glued his own sleeve to the seat, and it ended somewhere warm, and in the middle it said the thing I meant, which was that I was glad my brother had found someone. I'd been the best man for 3 weeks. I had a tie that matched the napkins because Logan's planner had emailed me a color code. The speed of it was the cruel part. There was no fight. Logan did not raise his voice. He stood at the head table with a glass already poured, tapped it twice with a ring, and the room hushed the way rooms do for the man who is paying.
Before we start, small change. Marcus is going to do the honors tonight.
Marcus half rose from the second table, surprised, a beer still in his hand. The guests made the sound a crowd makes when it decides to find a thing charming. Logan let it ride. He has always known the exact length of a pause.
Sam's a good guy, he really is. But honestly, he isn't really family. Grandpa just took him in. Marcus has known me since we were 8. It should be Marcus.
He said it the way you'd announce a seating swap or a corked bottle. Took me in. 2 words. And 90 people rearranged what they thought they knew about a man they'd been smiling at by the bar 20 minutes earlier. From the floor, Carol's voice carried, warm, doing the work of making it land soft.
Oh, that's right. Pop took those boys in, didn't he? Such a good man. She said it to her whole table and half the next one. Logan was always the one he had hopes for.
And the table laughed a little, the indulgent laugh you give a fond old story. That's how fast it traveled. I was standing near the head table because that's where the best man stands. I had the cards in my hand. I heard my own voice come out level. Logan. Just his name. He turned to me like a host turning to a guest who'd raised a small, polite issue with the seating.
It's fine, Sam. Marcus has got it. Sit down, have a drink, enjoy yourself.
I wrote a toast, I said. I lifted the cards an inch, the way you'd show a ticket. 3 weeks ago you asked me to. You picked the napkin color so my tie would match.
And I'm sure it's great. He smiled at the room while he said it, not at me, which is its own kind of answer. We're just going a different way tonight. Don't make it a thing, okay? You're embarrassing yourself a little.
Am I?
A little, yeah. He kept the smile on for the guests. Sit down.
I felt the temperature of the room change toward me. Not anger. Worse than anger. A kind of soft, embarrassed reassessment, the look you give a coat you've decided not to buy. 90 faces deciding. Logan looked at me while he waited, and there was nothing hot in his face. That is the detail I keep. People imagine that a man who guts you in public must be burning. He wasn't. He looked like a man checking that a knot would hold. Then he turned, found his planner by the bar, and lifted 2 fingers. Her name was Dana. She'd been running the night off a clipboard and a headset, and she had been kind to me at the tasting. She came over. Logan murmured something I didn't hear and pointed, not at me, at the floor plan in her hand. Dana looked at the card in her fingers, then at me, then back at the card, and her face did a small thing she couldn't hide. Dana. She didn't argue. People who work weddings learn not to. She walked the length of the head table with my place card pinched between two fingers, past the bride's seat, past the spot where mine had been, all the way down to the last small table jammed against the wall by the swinging kitchen doors. The table where the +1s sat, the boyfriend nobody had met, the cousin's new girlfriend. She set my card down there, square and careful, like setting down something she was sorry about.
Put Sam down with the +1s. He said it loud enough. He wanted it loud enough. Then, to the room, with a little laugh built in. He can help carry chairs if the band needs the floor. He's good with chairs.
A few people laughed. Not all of it, but enough of it. He looked at me when the laugh came back, the way you look at a man you're waiting to see flinch. So I gave him a sentence. 1. Carry chairs, I said. Sure, I'm good at chairs.
There he is. He raised his glass an inch toward me, easy, like we'd settled something. Knew you'd be a good sport.
I meant it 2 ways and he only heard 1. He smiled like I'd agreed to something. I had agreed to nothing. I stood there in a tie that matched the napkins, holding 4 index cards, and I understood that the night was already decided and had been decided before I got on the train. Here is what I did. I want it on the record because it's the only thing in this story I'm fully sure of. I folded the toast in half, then in half again until it was a tight square. I put it in the inside pocket of my jacket, the left side, the pocket over the rib. And I walked, not fast, not slow, down the length of that room, past 90 chairs and the people in them, to the small table by the kitchen doors, and I sat down in the chair Logan had given me. I did not make a scene. I've thought a great deal since about whether that was strength or just the body refusing to move. I still don't know. The chair was a cheap banquet thing with a vinyl seat, and it faced the wrong way for a dinner, angled toward the kitchen. Toward the swinging doors staff went in and out of with trays. From that chair I couldn't see the head table. I could see the doors. I sat with my back to my own family and looked at a door. A server came through with a tray and the doors swung and let out a wedge of bright kitchen light and the noise of pans, then swung shut, swung open, swung shut. I watched them do that most of the night. Hold on to that, because it matters later. At the time, it was only a man at a bad table watching a door. What nobody at that party knew, what I'm telling you only because you've come this far, is that there was a sealed envelope inside my jacket against the right side, opposite the folded toast. Pop's lawyer had put it in my hand 9 hours earlier and told me to bring it and not open it. I had it on me the whole night, and I did not understand yet that I was the only man in the room who'd been handed anything. I'll get to it. Let me tell you who I am first, because the toast only hurts if you know whose chair I learned to build in. I should back up. To understand why he isn't really family landed the way it did, you have to know how the family was built and who did the building. Logan and I are brothers, full brothers, same mother, same father, born 22 months apart, him first. People who heard Logan that night and didn't know us assumed I was a stray, a foster placement, a charity case Pop scooped up. That's the picture the words painted, and Logan knew it would. The truth is plainer and worse. We were brothers, and our parents died, and our grandfather raised us both. I was 9. Logan was 11. There was a road and an icy bridge outside of town and a guardrail that did what guardrails sometimes don't. And after that, there was Pop. Raymond Cole. Everyone called him Pop, including men twice my age who'd bought lumber from him. He had a house at the end of Hartley Street with a sagging porch he never fixed because he liked the way it sounded, and behind it a wood shop that smelled like sawdust and machine oil and cut pine. And he took 2 stunned boys into that house and did not flinch. He could have. He was already old. He'd buried his wife and then his son. A man like that has earned the right to be done. He wasn't done. He made us breakfast badly and lunches worse and showed up to every parent thing in a clean shirt and sat in the back and did not understand a single word of the math. The wood shop was where he raised us, really. The house was where we slept. Saturday mornings, the smell of coffee gone cold on the bench, the radio tuned to a station that only ever played men talking about weather and crops. Pop would put a board in front of you and a pencil behind your ear, and he would not tell you the answer. He'd let you cut it wrong once, so the right way had something to stand next to. The first thing he ever made us build was a chair. A real one, 4 legs and a back, the kind you could break if you built it wrong and someone heavy sat down. He said a man should be able to make a thing that holds another man's weight. He didn't say it like a lesson, he said it like a fact about the world. Logan's first chair wobbled and Pop made him build it again. Mine wobbled too. I built it 4 times. The third one, I was sure it was good, and I rocked it on the concrete and it gave that little click of a leg that isn't quite true, and Pop didn't even look up, just said, "Again," and went back to his own work. The 4th one held. I sat in it, and he put his hand on the back and pushed down hard, testing it with his whole arm, and then he nodded once, which from Pop was a parade. I still have that chair. It's in my kitchen. It has held every weight I've ever put on it. I'm telling you about the chair because it comes back. Everything in this story comes back. That's the part Logan forgot. The thing about 2 brothers raised by the same old man is that the old man is the only witness to which of you was which, and he gets a vote on the story right up until he can't. Logan was the easy one. Charming at 11, charming at 40. He left for college and then for a city 2 hours away, and a job with a title that changed every 18 months, and he sent cards. He was good at cards. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, a card when Pop's knee went. Nice cards. I was the other kind. I got a place 15 minutes from Hartley Street. I went over on Sundays, then Sundays and Wednesdays, then most days. I drove Pop to the doctor. I read him the mail he'd started squinting at. I sat in the shop with him those last couple of years when his hands weren't what they were and held the board steady while he ran the plane because he still wanted to run the plane, and a man should get to run the plane. There's no medal for any of it, and I'm not asking for one. I'm only laying it down next to what Logan said, so you can hold the 2 things in the same hand. Pop had a line for it. He didn't say much, but he had this one line, and he said it to me more than once, near the end, in the shop, not looking at me, the way men of that kind say the true things. You're the one who stayed. That's all. Not a thank you. Better than a thank you. A fact set down square, like a place card a person actually means. So when Logan said Grandpa just took him in, he wasn't only lying. He took the one true thing Pop ever named me and handed it to 90 strangers upside down. He took stayed and made it took in. I don't think the room could feel the difference. But I could. Pop had been gone 4 months by that rehearsal dinner. If your brother slid your place card down to the kitchen doors in front of 90 people, who would you have handed your folded toast to? I'm asking. I had 4 index cards in a pocket and nobody to give them to. Now the morning, because the morning is when the only thing that mattered actually happened, and almost nobody knew it was happening, including me. The dinner was at 7. At 10 that morning, my phone rang with a number I didn't have saved, a landline, which is its own kind of warning in this century. I almost let it go. I answered standing in my kitchen in a half-buttoned shirt, ironing the tie that matched the napkins.
Sam Cole, this is Harold Mercer. I was your grandfather's attorney.
I knew the name from the edges of a hard season. Mercer had handled things after Pop died, or I'd assume so. Logan had handled the handling, said he was taking care of the estate stuff so you don't have to. And I'd been grateful the way you're grateful for anything in the weeks after, and I hadn't asked. Mercer was, in the family telling, Pop's cranky old lawyer. Aunt Carol called him that, a man Pop had used for 30 years and nobody else liked.
I'd like to see you before tonight. Briefly. Can you come by the office?
I told him I had the rehearsal dinner. I told him I was the best man.
Best man. He repeated it like a word he was setting down on a scale. There was a quiet on the line, the kind I'd learn later was a man choosing not to say a thing he knew. Then I won't keep you. Come now if you can. It won't take long.
His office was 2 rooms over a hardware store downtown, which tells you something about Mercer that I came to respect. Filing cabinets that actually had files in them. A desk with a green lamp. He was a narrow man, reading glasses pushed up into white hair, a handshake like a dry board. He didn't waste my time with the weather. He had me sit, then reached into a drawer and took out a plain manila envelope, letter-sized, sealed. My name on the front in handwriting I didn't recognize as his because it wasn't his. I'm going to tell you exactly what was said because I've turned it over enough times to be sure.
Your grandfather left instructions with me some time ago. One of them concerns you. He asked that you bring this tonight. He set the envelope on the desk between us. I'd like you to keep it on your person. Don't open it yet.
What is it? I picked it up. It was light. Is this from Pop?
I'm not going to answer that tonight. He said it without apology. He looked at me over the glasses for a moment, and there was something careful in it, something held back. I'll only tell you what to do with it, which is nothing. Carry it. Keep it shut.
And then what?
Tonight, if I can, I'll come by. If I can't, you'll hear from me. Either way, bring it and keep it shut until I say.
I want to be honest about how little I understood. I thought it might be a letter, a note from Pop, something sentimental, handed over at a family gathering. And the rehearsal dinner was the only one on the calendar. Worst case, I figured it was money, a small thing an old man sets aside. I did not think it was important. I want that on the record because later people assumed I'd walked into that room loaded knowing, holding a card. I wasn't. I held an envelope I'd been told not to open, the way you hold a thing for someone you trust, which is to say barely thinking about it at all. There was one more thing and I almost missed it because Mercer said it as I was standing to go, in the flat voice men use for the lines they care about most.
He told me something once, about who to call and when. He took off the glasses. He said, only the one who stays gets the call. I didn't ask him what he meant. He wasn't a man you asked.
The one who stays, I said. It wasn't a question, it just came out of me.
His words, not mine. He put the glasses back on, and that was the end of it. Keep it shut, Sam. I'll find you.
The one who stays gets the call. I'd heard Pop's other line, "You're the one who stayed," a dozen times in that shop. I had never heard this one. I carried it out along with the envelope, and I didn't connect them, not that morning. I put the envelope in the inside right pocket of my jacket. I drove home. I got on the train. By 7, the envelope had been against my ribs for 9 hours, and I'd half forgotten it. Then Logan tapped his glass. So that's the shape of it going in. A man who stayed, a brother who sent cards, an old man 4 months in the ground who'd named me once with 2 true words, and a sealed envelope I'd been told to bring and not open, which I'll leave shut exactly as I was told, a while longer. I told you there was no fight. That's true of the toast. It was not true of the rest of the night, and the rest of the night started about an hour later at the bar when Logan found me. I'd gone to the bar because the bar was a reason to stand and not be a man alone at the +1's table. I'd ordered a club soda. I wasn't going to drink at my brother's rehearsal dinner. Some habits from being the one who drove Pop home are hard to put down. Logan came over with a bourbon and stood next to me, facing out at the room, shoulder to shoulder, the posture of 2 men who are fine. From a distance, we'd have looked like brothers having a moment.
You're not going to be weird about this, right?
Define weird.
Don't. He took a sip. Don't do the thing where you make it a thing. I'm serious. You've always been like this, like you're owed something. Like there's a scoreboard somewhere with your name at the top of it.
You put my card by the kitchen, Logan, in front of everybody. You said I was good for carrying chairs.
It was a joke.
It wasn't a joke. You rehearsed it. You told Dana where to move me before I even got off the train.
You're reading into it. He didn't deny the part about Dana. I noticed that. You read into everything. Always have.
I lived in that house 16 years, I said. Same as you.
And then you stayed, hovering, driving him around. He said it like the staying was the suspicious part. You weren't here for the whole picture, Sam. That's not the same as family. You'll get there.
Sunday dinners aren't hovering, I said. Doctor's visits aren't hovering. You'd know what they were if you'd come to one.
I had a life 2 hours away. I sent cards.
Cards.
Cards count. People keep cards. He turned the glass a quarter turn on the bar, the ice clicking. You had nothing else going on. Don't dress it up as devotion. It was just where you happened to be.
He couldn't read his own mail at the end. I read it to him. Was that where I happened to be?
That's exactly what I mean. You keep the receipts. He said it like he'd proved a point. Healthy people don't keep the receipts, Sam.
I dressed up nothing, I said. You're the one in a $400 tie telling 90 people a story about a brother who isn't really a brother. That landed somewhere, not on his face. His face stayed flat, but he set the bourbon down a half-inch harder than he needed to. For Logan, that's a man flinching.
Careful, quiet, level, almost friendly. You don't want to be the guy who makes this about himself at my rehearsal dinner. People are watching, Sam. They've been watching all night. You know what they see.
Tell me what they see, Logan. Go ahead.
A man who can't be happy for his brother. He let that sit, then softened it, which was worse. I'm trying to help you here. Sit down. Have your soda. Don't give them more than they already have.
And what do they already have? Whose version are they running?
The true one. He said it without a flicker. That was the part that got me, not the lie, the calm under it. You hung around an old man. Now he's gone and you've got that look on you, the one where you think a door's about to open. There's no door, Sam. Sit down.
You were there, Logan. I kept my voice where his was. You know which version is true. You built the chair next to mine. You glued your own sleeve to it.
I don't remember it that way.
You remember it exactly that way. You're choosing not to.
I'm choosing the version that gets me through tonight, he said. You should try it. It's a better night that way, for both of us. Just sit down and let it be his.
That's the thing about being lied to by someone who shares your memories. He was there. He knows the real one. He'd just decided the real one was inconvenient, and he said the false one so steadily, so without heat, that for a second you check your own footing. I checked mine. Then I remembered the fourth chair, the one that held, and I stopped checking. I asked him one question instead. Flat. Why tonight? I said. If it's about Marcus, you make that call a week ago. A text. Why do it here in front of 90 people? His face did the thing again. The not checking thing, the absence of heat.
It's not about tonight, Sam. He looked at me then, straight on, and there was almost something gentle in it, which was the worst version. It was never about tonight.
Then what's it about? Say it plainly. We're brothers. Say the thing.
You'll figure it out. He picked the bourbon back up. You always do. Just usually too late to do anything about it.
That sounds like a man who decided something a long time ago.
Good night, Sam. He said it the way you close a door you don't plan to open again. Then Brooke called him for a photo, and he went and left me with a club soda and a sentence I couldn't decode.
I can decode that sentence for you now, because I eventually learned the shape underneath it. Logan had spent money he did not have. The wedding was a number you don't say out loud at the wedding. The lakeside room, the ceiling bulbs, the band with a floor, and before the wedding, the house. A new build across the county line with a stone face, the kind that photographs as success and lives as a payment. I didn't know the figures that night. I knew the shape, the way you know a man is leaning on a railing before you see how far over the water he is. A man leaning that far needs a story where what's coming to him is his, fully, undivided, and where anyone standing near it is in the way. I was standing in the way of something. I didn't know it yet. That's what "it was never about tonight" meant. He'd done the math weeks before. The toast was just the night he chose to read me the answer. I won't turn my brother into a monster you can't reason with. Logan could have. He just ran a different number. The guilt trap came at me from the side, the way the real damage in families always does, not from the one swinging, but from the one who hands him the bat and calls it peace. Her name is Carol. Aunt Carol, Pop's younger sister, the last of that generation, a woman who has worn the same perfume since I was 9 and who runs a family the way a foreman runs a crew. She found me near the windows where I'd drifted after the bar, and she came with a glass of white wine and the warm, gripping kindness of a person about to ask you to swallow something. She put her hand on my arm. She has small, strong hands.
Sam, sweetheart, I know that wasn't easy to hear.
It's fine, Carol. I am a man who says things are fine.
It's not fine, and that's all right. You don't have to pretend with me. She squeezed my arm, and this is where the trap closed, gently, with no teeth showing. But I want you to think about something for me. Your brother is under so much stress, you have no idea. The wedding, the new house, and tonight is his night, his and Brooke's.
I know whose night it is.
Do you? She lowered her voice into the register people use for sacred things. Because, honey, after everything Pop did, taking you boys in when he didn't have to, you wouldn't make a scene tonight, of all nights. Not after that.
Pop didn't take me in, I said. He raised me. There's a difference, Carol.
Same thing, sweetheart.
It isn't.
It is, and he raised you better than this. She patted, not squeezed. The pat is for when she thinks she's already won. Pop didn't raise you to be ungrateful. You know that.
I drove him to every appointment that last year, Carol. Everyone. You sent flowers.
And I'd do it again, because that's how I show love. I don't keep a ledger of it. The warmth tightened a degree. That's what worries me about you, sweetheart. You count. You always have, since you were small. Logan gives without counting. You give, and then you sit there and you wait to be paid.
Logan sent cards from 2 hours away. I held the board steady while Pop's hands shook. You want to call that the same?
I want to call it over, Sam. Tonight. That's all.
I never asked Pop for $1.
Of course you didn't. Not out loud. She smiled, gentle, terrible. But you're here tonight, aren't you? Sitting where you're sitting, and I can see you doing the arithmetic on it, right now, behind your eyes.
I'm not doing arithmetic. I'm sitting at the kids' table at my brother's wedding, Carol. You watched it happen and you laughed.
I smiled because that's what you do, sweetheart. You don't pour gasoline on a man's night and call it honesty. She set 2 fingers on my wrist, light. Don't. For me. For Pop. Let your brother have his night, and people will remember you were the bigger man. Make a scene. And that is the only thing anyone in this room will ever remember about you. The night Sam couldn't be happy for his brother.
I'm not making a scene, I said. I haven't said one word to anyone but you.
And that was lovely of you, Sam. Truly. For half a second, the warm thing in her face slipped, and I saw the foreman under it, doing a quick count of who'd heard. Nobody had. She put the warmth back on. Which is exactly why you'd never spoil his brother's night. Would you? Promise me. Say it.
I'm not going to make a scene, Carol.
Good boy. After everything Pop did for you, taking you in, that's the least you owe him. A quiet night. She patted my arm, satisfied. Go sit. Eat something.
And she went back to the warm center of the room, having locked the only door I might have walked out of swinging. There it was again. Took you in. The same two words Logan had used, now wrapped in love and pointed at my conscience instead of my standing. From Carol, it wasn't a weapon. It was a debt. You were given everything. You owe quiet. Gratitude looks like sitting down and eating it. And it worked, partly, because I was grateful. That's the cruelty of a guilt trap built on a real debt. The debt is real. Pop did give me everything I have, including the spine I was using right then to stand at that window. Carol was using the truest thing in me to keep me in the corner. What she didn't know, what nobody there knew, was that the man who'd taken me in had reached out one more time and put a sealed envelope against my ribs that very morning, and that gratitude to Pop did not point where Carol was pointing it. But I didn't say that. I didn't know enough to. I'd given her my word and I'd meant it, and she'd walked off with it like a signed receipt. So now I was sealed twice, erased by Logan and silenced by Carol, with the silence dressed up as the only decent thing a grateful man could do. I went back to the table by the kitchen doors. I sat in the chair facing the wrong way, and the night, which I'd thought had already done its worst at the toast, went lower. It went lower because of the thing that happens at parties after the public part is over. The private telling, table to table, the version that gets agreed on. A friend of Logan's I'd had beers with caught my eye across the room and then very deliberately did not catch it again. A cousin's wife I'd helped move a couch once gave me a small, sorry smile and turned her shoulder. The room was deciding something about me without me, and the verdict was arriving at my table from every direction like weather. I caught pieces. You catch pieces at the kitchen door table because people forget the plus ones can hear and the staff path runs right past you. Always been jealous of Logan, even his kids, a man said 2 tables up. Was he? I never knew that. A woman leaning in. Oh, the whole time. Only stuck around the old man because he knew there was money in that house. Sad, really. Logan's been carrying him for years. And then, from Carol's corner, in Carol's voice, the cleanest knife of the night, pitched for the people closest to her, and not 1 inch louder.
Sam's bitter. He always was. He's only here for the inheritance between you and me. Pop saw it too at the end. Pop wasn't a fool.
Pop saw it too at the end. That one I'll carry a while. The man who pushed down on a chair I'd built and nodded, recruited after death to vouch for the lie that I'd hung around for money. The room had already answered. The room said money. They hadn't just erased me. They'd preloaded the room with a reason for it, so the guests didn't see a man knifed by his brother. They saw a generous man setting a boundary with a bitter, grasping relative who'd had it coming. The victim became the aggressor before the aggression ever happened. Every face that turned from me turned from the man the story said I was, the schemer, the leech, the brother who'd only ever wanted the house. I sat there with a club soda going flat and let it land. There's no clever move at the bottom. I didn't stand up. I sat in a borrowed chair and watched 90 people I'd grown up around quietly agree that I was the worst version of myself. And I had 2 things in my jacket: a folded toast over my left rib, a sealed envelope over my right, and I used neither. The chair was the worst of it. Not the toast, the chair. Pop taught us in that shop that a chair is a promise. You build it so a man can put his whole weight down and trust it to hold. Logan had handed me one and a place by the door and a job, carry chairs, like the only thing a man who builds chairs is good for is hauling other people's. He'd reached for the shop, the one place Pop was ever fully himself, and made it a slur in front of everyone we knew. And I don't think he even knew he'd done it. The shop didn't mean enough to him for the cruelty to be deliberate. I faced the kitchen doors because facing them was better than facing the room, and they swung open, swung shut all night, letting out light and pulling it back. The one time I half rose out of habit to hold a door, I caught Carol watching, ready to fold even that into the story. Sam can't even sit still. And I lowered myself back down and kept my hands flat on the cloth. I have never worked so hard at doing nothing. I did the math Logan wanted. There is no version of standing up that doesn't prove them right. So I stayed down. A man at the end of a long room, hands flat, watching a door he had no reason to think anyone would ever walk through. That was the bottom, I thought. Until the door by the kitchen opened the next night. I told you the bottom was the rehearsal dinner. I was wrong about that the way you're wrong about a step in the dark. You think you've hit the floor, and then your foot keeps going. The next night was the wedding itself. The lakeside room again, dressed up now, white cloth and candle glass and a band tuning in the corner, same 90 faces. My chair was still down by the kitchen doors. Somebody had even left a folded napkin on it shaped like a swan, which I took for a joke I wasn't in on. I went anyway, in the same jacket, the envelope in the inside pocket, the one Mercer had handed me the morning before, still shut, the way he'd asked. Bring it tonight? Don't open it yet. A shut envelope is light. You forget it's there. That was the mistake, not the carrying, the forgetting. I got through the ceremony. I got through the part where the officiant said family and watched the back of Logan's neck not turn. By then, the room had been handed a version of me, pre-chewed. He's bitter. He always envied Logan. He only stuck around the old man for the inheritance. 9 years of Sunday drives and a fixed gutter and learning to make the one soup Pop would still eat, folded into a single tidy word. Bitter. It is a strange thing to watch people decide who you are while you stand right there, sober, in your good jacket, saying nothing. I found my exiled chair and sat in it and decided I'd leave after the cake and call it a life. I want to be honest about the size of me that night. No plan, no fight in me, no card up a sleeve. A folded toast in one pocket nobody would hear, a shut envelope in the other I'd half forgotten, and the specific tiredness of a man told so many times he's the lucky one that he started to wonder if the gratitude was the trap. Then a hand landed on my shoulder. Not hard. The hand of a man who has done this before and knows the difference between a grip and a signal. I knew Harold Mercer the way the whole family did. A roomer with a briefcase. The old man's lawyer. Pop's cranky lawyer. The one Aunt Carol called to complain Pop wouldn't update anything, then complained worse when he did. I'd met him twice in 9 years, both times in Pop's kitchen. Both times he refused coffee and stayed an hour. Past 70, dressed like a man who'd stopped buying suits in a decade he'd been happy in. He did not raise his voice. I'd learned that night he didn't need to. Both visits leaving, he'd stopped at the door and looked at me a beat longer than a stranger looks at the help. I'd thought it was nothing. Old men measure you. Standing in that service hall now, trays warming, floor cleaner sharp in my nose, I understood it had been inventory.
Walk with me, Sam.
We went out the side, past the kitchen doors. He put his back to the wall so he could see both ends of the hall, which I noticed and didn't understand yet, and looked at me the way a man looks at a tool he's about to find out if he can trust. There was a steel cart between us and the ballroom, stacked with bus tubs, and a young cook in a paper hat slid past with a tray of something on fire, and Mercer waited until the kid was gone before he said a word. He was a man who counted ears before he spent a sentence.
The paper Logan filed, when was it dated?
No lift at the end of it. He decided the answer mattered more than my comfort, and he wanted to watch my face while I failed to know. What paper? I said. There's a paper.
There's a paper. The control document, the one that makes him executor, sole authority over the house, the accounts, the shop. He filed a copy with the family the week after the funeral. You signed nothing on it. Did you?
I never signed anything, I said. Nobody put anything in front of me to sign.
Then you never saw it.
I never saw a paper. Logan handled the estate. He said Pop wanted it simple. He said... I stopped because the next words were Logan's, and I'd been carrying those shut too.
He said what?
That I wasn't really set up for it. The accounts, the filings, the man at the bank. He said it would drown me. That Pop trusted him to take care of me.
Take care of you.
His words, Pop trusted him to take care of me.
And you believed him.
He's my brother, I said. For 9 years, that was the whole story. Pop left it to Logan to manage. I was the one who got taken care of. I said thank you at the funeral.
You said thank you to whom?
To Logan. He stood at the front and the family lined up and I shook his hand and said thank you.
You said thank you for your own house.
That landed somewhere a fist couldn't reach. Not drama in my chest. Quieter than that, and worse. The feeling of a floor turning out to be a sheet over a hole. I'd thanked him. I'd driven home from the funeral grateful, and the gratitude had been real. And that was the part that turned my stomach standing in that hall. Not that I'd been robbed, but that I'd held the door for the man who did it and told him it was nothing. Why would he? I started, and stopped, because the question was the kind you ask to keep from believing the answer. He doesn't need it. Look at this place. The cake, the band, 90 people. He's the one who's fine. I'm the one who carries chairs.
Is he fine? A man who is fine does not file a control document the week his grandfather is in the ground.
He looks fine. That's a 4-tier cake in there. That band's not a wedding DJ band.
A man who is in trouble buys the biggest cake in the room. You're looking at the proof and calling it the alibi.
You think he's in trouble?
I think a man shows you what he wants you to count, and your brother wants you counting 90 guests. I don't know the shape of it yet. I know that whatever made him do this, he did it on purpose, slow, and he is not going to undo it because you ask nice.
Then what do you want from me? I said. You walked me out here. You didn't walk me out here to tell me my brother's broke.
I walked you out here to find out if you knew.
He looked at me another second.
You didn't. That's worth something. A man who already knew would be calmer than you are right now.
I didn't have anywhere to put that, so I held it. One more thing that didn't fit the story I'd been handed, and I'd find out at the cake table, 20 minutes on, that the size of the wedding was a question all its own. Mercer nodded once, like a man checking a box he'd hoped not to check.
I sat with your grandfather. In his kitchen, 2 witnesses, a notary I drove out myself. We did the real one. It is recorded. It exists in a building with a clerk and a stamp and a number. Whatever Logan waved at this family is a copy of something that does not outrank it.
Then why am I just hearing it now? I said. No heat. Pop had been gone almost 2 years. Logan had filed his paper, played executor, run the whole estate, and the man holding the real will had said nothing to me. It was a fair question, and I asked it plain.
Because I needed to know which grandson you were.
Meaning?
Your grandfather left me a document, a name, and a sentence. The sentence was, "Only the one who stays gets the call." He didn't say give it to Sam the day I die. He said wait for the one who stays. A man can be in the room and not be the one who stayed.
And you waited 2 years to decide.
I watched. I watched you drive out on Sundays after he was already gone, to sit in the shop. I watched Logan never go back to the house except to price it.
He paused.
Last night, your brother stood up in front of 90 people and told them what you were to the old man, and you folded a toast into your pocket and let him finish. That's when I knew. Not a man who came to fight for a peace. A man who came to stand. So I called you the next morning. That's the call, Sam. You got it a day late because I am careful and your brother is loud. The envelope I gave you, you still have it. You did not open it.
In my jacket, I said, shut, like you asked. Something in him eased a half-inch. On Mercer, the equivalent of another man sitting down hard in relief.
Keep it shut a while longer. Don't leave it in a coat you'll hang on a chair.
My first thought was small. The thought of a man told for 9 years to be grateful. So I can ask for a share, I said, of the house, of something.
You could, and you would lose.
I'd lose. There's a real document and I'd still lose.
You'd lose because of the word you just used, share. A man who asks for a piece admits the other man owns the whole.
Then what's the difference? A piece is a piece.
The difference is the whole sentence. A man who asks for a piece admits the other man owns the whole. You'd be a guest begging for a chair. Logan's lawyers settle you out for the price of going away quiet, call it generous, and Aunt Carol tells the family how much Logan gave you out of the goodness of his heart. You spend the rest of your life as the brother who got bought. That what you want?
No.
Say it cleaner. Is that what you came here for tonight?
No, I came to stand at my brother's wedding.
Then stop asking for a share. The paper Logan filed isn't a thing to negotiate around. It's a thing to undo. We don't ask for a slice. We put the real document in front of a court and let it do what it was built to do.
And the real one wins. Just like that. We put it on a table and it wins.
It's recorded. It wins on its own. You don't argue it. You produce it.
I don't understand the difference you keep drawing. Win is win.
The difference is who the table belongs to. Understand the move, Sam. We are not getting you a seat at his table. We are establishing it was never his table.
He let that sit, then gave me the one plain thing he'd been deciding whether to hand me. The way you decide whether to give a man a drink before bad news.
In plain English, the paper Logan waved at 90 people was never the real one.
I've turned that sentence over a lot since. Not clever. Mercer was not a clever sentence man. It just happened to be true. Logan had held up a document like a sheriff's badge, and the document was a copy of a will that lost to a different will, and the different will sat in a building downtown with a number on it, and I had a copy of it in my coat. "What's in the envelope?" I said.
A conformed copy of the real one. Same words the clerk has. I gave it to you and to nobody in that room for a reason, and I'll give you the reason somewhere a man can't pick my pocket. For now you carry it shut, because you're the one who stays, and the one who stays gets the call. His words, Sam, not mine.
Pop's lawyer called me the morning of the dinner and put a sealed envelope in my hand. I'll ask you the thing I asked myself. Would you have opened it before you walked back into that room, torn it right there in the hall, read every line, or carried it shut the way I did because a man you trusted told you to? I carried it shut. I'm still not sure that was strength. Tell me what you'd have done. Mercer started for the door, then turned, and for the first time the calm cracked a half degree. Not anger, something older.
One thing, do not sign anything tonight. Not a card, not a list, not a single line a man puts in front of you with a pen already uncapped. Whatever he asks you to sign at this party, the answer is, I'll have someone look at it. Say it back.
I'll have someone look at it, I said.
Say it twice if he smiles when he asks.
We went back in separately. Mercer's idea, a man who'd run 100 of these and knew that two men coming through a door together is a thing rooms remember. I came in by the kitchen doors, past my swan napkin chair. Mercer came in the front a few minutes later and stood near the bar like any old man at any wedding, nursing a club soda, watching. It took Logan 11 minutes to find me. I counted, because counting gave the part of me that wanted to do something else a job. He came across the floor with 2 glasses of champagne and that face he wears for rooms. Open, warm, the golden sun's face that's gotten him out of every check that ever came due. He set a glass I didn't take on the nearest table, careful, like a man placing a chess piece.
I think we got off wrong. Last night, the toast thing, Sam, it's a wedding. People drink. Things come out sideways. You know I didn't mean half of it.
I said nothing. A certain kind of man fills a silence with more than he meant to.
Let's not ruin Brooke's night. Hers, not mine. Look, I'll make it right. The house, the money, Pop's stuff. We sit down, you and me, like brothers, figure out something fair to you.
Hers, not mine? He knew where you keep the part of you that won't be the villain at a stranger's wedding? Fair to me, I said.
Fair to you. I've felt bad about it, honestly. The way it's looked.
The way it's looked.
Don't do that. Repeat me like that. I'm trying here.
Okay, I said, because Mercer had told me to keep him talking, and okay commits to nothing.
Great. Here, there's just one thing. Carol drew it up. It's nothing, a family thing.
The relief that crossed him was real. It told me how scared he'd been before I said it. And there she was, like she'd been waiting on the word. Aunt Carol came across the floor with a leather folder held to her chest, the way she held her purse in church, and she had her warm face on. The one she used right before she said the cruelest thing in the room in the kindest voice. She did not look at me long. She looked at Logan, checking his work.
I'm so glad you two are talking. The whole family's been sick over it, Sam. Just sick. You don't know how it's looked.
How's it looked, Carol?
Like you couldn't be happy for your brother for one night. That's all. We know you've had a hard time. Nobody's blaming you.
She set the folder on the table beside the glass I hadn't touched.
I brought a copy for the file, so there's no confusion later. Confusion's how families end up not speaking.
A copy for the file. She said it the way some people say bless your heart. I'd find out later there was no file. There was Carol, and there was whatever Carol decided the family would remember. But she'd practiced the line, and the line did its job, which was to make a waiver between two brothers sound like a thing the whole bloodline had agreed on while I wasn't looking.
It's a family peace waiver. Squashes the old stuff, no hard feelings. Nobody drags the family through anything ugly over money. Protects you too. Says you can't be made part of any dispute. Sign it. We put last night behind us. Tomorrow we have a real talk about your share. Carol's got a copy for the file.
He said it like the words were a kindness he was doing me. He brought out a single sheet folded in 3 and a pen, and the pen was already uncapped, and I heard Mercer in my head clear as if he stood at my elbow. Say it twice if he smiles. Logan was smiling. I read the first line. I am not a lawyer, and never will pretend to be. I read it the way any man reads a thing a brother shoves at him at a party. Slow, the band too loud. But you don't need a license to notice a paper called a peace waiver spends 3 of its 4 paragraphs on the word relinquish. I gave up any claim, present or future, to the estate of Raymond Cole. I acknowledged the validity of the documents already filed. I waived the right to contest. It was not a peace. It was a deed of surrender with a soft name on it. Carol drew this up, I said.
She's family. Saves us a lawyer.
Carol drew up a paper about Pop's estate. You drew this up, Carol.
I typed what your brother needed, honey. It's nothing fancy. People sign these every day.
It says I relinquish. 3 times. I counted while you walked over.
It says you make peace. That's what relinquish means in a thing like this. Letting go. You want to let go, don't you? You don't want to carry this around the rest of your life.
She kept the warm face on, but it cost her a little now. And the part where I acknowledge the documents already filed, I said, that part's letting go too. Something moved behind his eyes. Not much. Enough. And Carol's hand came up and rested flat on the folder, like a woman keeping a door from blowing open.
It's boilerplate, Sam. Every one of these has language like that. You're reading a form like it's a contract.
It is a contract, I said.
It's family is what it is.
Carol's voice dropped into the register she used to win.
Your brother is standing here on his wedding day with his hand out. Raymond raised you better than to slap it. Whatever you think happened, this is the night you let it go, or it eats you. I've watched it eat people, Sam. I won't watch it eat you.
Then why does it need my signature, Carol? I said. If it's just letting go, you let go for free, you don't sign for it. She didn't have a sentence for that one. She had a look, The one that flattened out and went somewhere cold for half a second before the warm came back over it, and in that half second, I saw that she knew exactly what the paper was and had typed it anyway, and the kindness was the costume.
It's a favor. Look around. Everybody here thinks you came to my wedding to sulk in the corner. You sign this. You're the bigger man. You don't. You're exactly what they already said you are. One signature, and it's over.
He dropped the warmth a half degree, the first crack, and held the pen out further. And I almost did. I want that on the record, because the version where I'm clever the whole way through is not the true one. Half a second, the easiest thing in the world was to take the pen. The band was warm. People were dancing. Brooke was somewhere in white, laughing, having the night a person gets once. Aunt Carol watched from the bar with a copy for the file, as if a waiver between two brothers needed a witness, as if the witness hadn't already been arranged. Everything in the room was built to make signing feel like grace and refusing feel like spite. That's the machine. You make the decent man choose between his claim and the look of being decent, and you bet he picks the look. Logan had built that machine around me my whole life. He'd just never put it in writing before. "I'll have someone look at it," I said. The smile held one full second past where it should have, and that second was the truest thing he showed me all night. Then it reset. Carol's hand pressed a little harder on the folder.
Someone. Who's someone? It's a family form. You don't need a lawyer to.
"I'll have someone look at it," I said.
Sam, there's no someone, there's us. Your family right here tonight. Don't go making a lawyer thing out of your brother's wedding.
Carol again, softer, the closing voice. "Then it stays unsigned till someone looks at it," I said. "That's not a lawyer thing, Carol. That's just me reading slow."
You're being paranoid.
"Maybe," I said. "Then it'll look fine to someone and I'll sign it tomorrow. Paranoid men sign things on Tuesdays all the time." That was where I nearly lost everything, and the speed is the point. Logan glanced down, not at the paper, at my jacket, the place over my ribs where the inside pocket sits, where the envelope was. And I understood he knew, not what was in it, that there was an it. Someone had told him the old man's lawyer pressed something into the outsider's hand. Aunt Carol, who saw everything. The planner, who Logan paid. Didn't matter who. What mattered was the way his eyes came up off my chest and went flat and friendly again, and what he said next.
Take your jacket off, man. You're sweating. Here, give it to me. I'll have Dana hang it with the others. You don't want to be the guy carrying his coat around all night.
"Easy," a brother looking out. And I caught the small choreography of it. Carol stepped half a pace to my other side as he said it. Not a lunge, nothing a guest would clock, just a woman closing the angle so that between the two of them and the table, I had one clean way to move and it was backward. The wedding planner was already drifting in from the wall with her arm out for a coat, summoned by nothing I'd seen Logan do. They'd done this before, the three of them, in some other room over some other thing. I could feel the practice in it. He reached for my lapel. A real reach, fingers open, the move half done before the asking. If I'd let him, I'd have handed my brother the one copy of the real will that wasn't behind a government stamp downtown, and he'd have walked it to a coat room he controlled at a venue he'd paid for, and I do not think I'd have seen that jacket again with the envelope still in it. I stepped back. One step. The exiled chair was right behind me. The swan napkin chair, the carry the chair's chair. And I put my hand on its back, the way you steady yourself, and kept my coat on. "I run hot," I said. "I'm fine."
You sure? It's no trouble. Dane'll tag it. You'll get it back.
He kept the hand up a half second, the friendly hand, the brother looking out hand. "I'm keeping it on, Logan." It came out flatter than I meant, or exactly as flat as I meant. I've stopped being able to tell the difference about that night. 3 plain words, and the hand came down. Carol's eyes went to the place over my ribs where his had gone, just for a flick. And then she gathered her folder off the table and her copy for the file and smoothed her face back into the warm one and said something about checking on the cake, and she was gone. And that was the tell. She'd come to witness a signature. There was no signature. There was no reason for her to stay. We stood there a second, the two of us and the chair and the pen. The band finished a song, the room clapped, and Logan pocketed the pen, patted my arm, said we'd talk tomorrow, and walked off toward Brooke with the unsigned paper folded back into nothing. He'd find another way. I knew that the way you know weather. But the envelope was still against my ribs, my hand was still on the back of that chair, and across the room, a 70-year-old man set down a club soda and didn't smile because he'd seen the reach too. I sat down after that. I had to. Not because anything had happened. Nothing had happened. That was the strange part. A man reached for a coat and didn't get it, and that was all anyone watching would have seen. But I understood for the first time that the thing in my pocket was not a keepsake. It was the only loose copy of the only paper that could undo everything my brother had built, and he wanted it, and he was patient, and he owned the room and the coat room and the planner, and half the family's good opinion. The will downtown was safe behind a stamp and a number. This one was behind nothing but me. I'd been carrying it the way you carry a card you mean to mail. Now I carried it the way you carry the only set of keys to a house full of people you love. The weight didn't change. The way I held it did. Mercer caught me by the cake table 20 minutes later. 4 tears, white on white, more wedding than Logan could afford twice over, which I'd think about later. He held out his hand and I knew what for. I gave him the envelope. He didn't open it. He held it the way Pop used to hold a board he was about to true. Feeling it, judging it, not yet cutting.
He went for the coat.
It wasn't a question.
I saw.
He knows there's something, I said.
He knows there's a something. He doesn't know it's the thing that buries him. Let him not know a while longer.
Carol came with him, I said. She had a folder, a copy for the file, she said.
There is no file. There's Carol. She's the part of your brother that talks. Don't argue with her. You can't win a thing with Carol because she isn't keeping score the way you are. She's keeping the family's story, and tonight the story needed your name on a line. You didn't give it to her. Good.
He said it without heat, the way you'd note the weather. Then tell me the rest, I said. Why does his paper lose? You keep saying the recording. There's more.
There's more.
He stepped closer under the band.
The recording wins on its own. That's just law. But that's not the thing that turns it. It's the date.
The date? What about the date?
Look at when his control form is signed. The 4th of March, 2 years ago.
He recited it. Didn't read it off anything. Had it in his head the way a man keeps the one fact that matters. Okay, the 4th of March. That means nothing to me, Harold.
It will. Your grandfather signed the real will 11 months before that. I watched him do it. 2 witnesses, a notary. His signature like a man who knew his own name. The 4th of March is after.
After the real one, so it's newer. Doesn't newer usually win?
Newer wins when it's clean. This one isn't clean, and the date is how you know. The 4th of March is after.
After what? You keep landing on it like I'm supposed to hear something.
After his hand went.
He paused, and the pause was the closest a careful man comes to anger.
Months after the morning, Pop couldn't get the cap off his own pen and asked you to do it. You remember that morning?
I remembered it. I won't make a scene of it here, because Pop wouldn't have wanted one made, and the room was full of people, and the band was playing, and I was not going to be a man who came apart at a cake table. One morning that winter, his hand would not do what his head still wanted, and I steadied it for the small things, and he was embarrassed, and I told him it was nothing. 2 men and a stubborn pen cap. He laughed. He was still Pop. He just couldn't make the letters go where he aimed them. That was months before the 4th of March. The same hands had stood Logan and me at a bench when we were boys and taught us to true aboard by feel. So when Mercer says steady hand, unsteady hand, I'm not hearing a legal term. I'm hearing a winter. And I'm hearing my brother look at that winter and see an opening. He turned the copy in his hand so I could see it without taking it.
The one in your envelope is the real one, recorded, dated when his hand was steady. The form Logan filed is dated when it wasn't. Put the 2 pages side by side and the dates do the whole job. He didn't forge a signature, Sam. He waited. He waited for the steady hand to go, then put a paper under the unsteady one and called it the truth.
What do we do? I said.
Tonight, nothing. You keep your coat on, your hand off any pen, and you let your brother believe he's an hour from a signature. Tomorrow we go downtown.
He slid the envelope back into my hand and closed my fingers over it with his. An old man's grip, dry and certain.
You hold it. You're the one who stays.
He went back to his club soda. I went back to the only chair that was mine. Down by the kitchen doors, swan napkin still on it, the one Logan had given me to put me in my place. I sat in it, and I noticed a thing I hadn't. Sober and clear, the way you notice once your eyes have a reason to look. The chair faced the doors. Not the head table, not the band, not the cake. The seat my brother had exiled me to pointed straight at the swinging service doors beside the kitchen, the ones a man would walk through coming in from the back of the house with a recorded will and a date in his head and no intention of being announced. I didn't know yet that he would. I only knew the chair was aimed at the one door that hadn't opened. I straightened the swan napkin. I kept my coat on. The band started something slow. Logan led Brooke out under the lights, and the whole room turned to watch the golden sun dance with his bride. Nobody was watching the man in the corner by the kitchen. That suited me fine. I had a clear line on the one door that mattered, and I watched it. My brother had just reached for my coat. I want to start there because the rest of the night turned on the half second after it. He'd reached with an open hand and a brother's easy face.
Take the jacket off, man. Give it here. I'll have Dana hang it with the others.
And inside that jacket, against my ribs, was the one loose copy in the world of the paper that buried him. I'd stepped back. I'd put my hand on the back of the exile chair. I'm good, I said. I run hot.
Suit yourself.
He'd patted my arm and folded his unsigned waiver into nothing and walked off toward Brooke. And to anybody watching it was a man reaching for a sweating relative's coat and being told no thanks. Nothing had happened. That was the part that kept me cold. Nothing had happened, and I had nearly handed him everything. So I did a small thing. The first thing I'd done all night that was mine, that nobody told me to do, that came up out of the part of me Pop built. I didn't put it in a plan. I just knew. The way your hand knows a board is going to split before your eyes catch the grain, that the envelope could not spend one more minute in a pocket my brother had already learned to look at. I went to the coat check. Not fast. I'd spent 9 years learning that a room reads a hurrying man, and I was not going to tell this room anything. I crossed the floor at the speed of a man going to find the restroom, past my Aunt Carol telling someone in a low, warm voice that I'd finally lost it, and I got to the little counter by the front where a girl in a vest was guarding 200 coats on a rolling rack. There was one coat I'd checked at the start of the night, an old canvas thing with a zipper that had quit somewhere in a winter I couldn't name, hung down the unglamorous end of the rack where the staff coats hung, because a broken zipper canvas coat is the one coat in any room that nobody, ever, reaches for by mistake. I gave her the ticket. She found it. And while she had her back turned, I slid the envelope out of the inside pocket of my good jacket. Mercer's voice in my head the whole time. On you, not in a coat, not in a car, on you. And I almost obeyed him to the letter. I almost kept it where it was. But Mercer had also said the smartest thing he'd say all night without knowing it.
A man can lean in for a hug he doesn't mean and lift a thing right out of your pocket. Watch the hugs tonight.
He'd meant it as a warning about hugs. I heard it as a fact about pockets. A pocket is the first place a brother's hand goes. A checked coat with a dead zipper, down at the staff end of a rack 200 deep, is the last. So I broke the one instruction the old man's lawyer gave me, and I did it on purpose, and I have never once regretted it. I tucked the envelope flat behind the lining where the dead zipper made a kind of false pocket, and I took the canvas coat off the rack myself and folded it over my arm. And then, of course, Carol found me. She came around the end of the rack with a glass of white and that soft, concerned face she wore for cornering people.
You're not leaving.
She said it like a hope, like the night would go easier if the bitter one took his coat and went. Stepping out for air, I said. I run hot.
You always did make a production of nothing.
She looked at the coat. For one bad second, her eyes were on the exact fold where the envelope sat, and the whole night narrowed to the width of that fold.
Don't make a scene tonight, Sam. Not tonight, whatever this is.
There's no scene, Carol.
There's always a scene with you.
And she patted my arm in the spot Logan had patted it, the family's whole gesture for me, in one place on one sleeve, and drifted off to refill her glass and tell someone else what I was. She'd been an inch from the only loose copy of the paper that ended her version of me, and she walked away because she'd already decided there was nothing in me worth checking. It was the most useful thing Carol's contempt ever did for me. Then I gave the coat back to the girl and slipped her a folded bill. Do me a favor, I said. Keep this one up front where you can see it. Don't hang it on the back rack with the rest. She looked at the broken zipper and the burned cuff and the corduroy collar gone shiny, and I watched her decide not to ask why a grown man was tipping her to babysit the worst coat in the building. Server. Sure. Nobody's gonna fight you for it. No, I said, they won't. And I walked away with empty hands and an empty jacket. Logan could pat me down at the cake table now and find nothing but a folded toast and a glass of water I hadn't asked for. That coat, while I'm telling you about it, it wasn't a nice coat. It was the canvas barn coat Pop wore in the shop the last good winters, corduroy collar gone shiny, a burn on the cuff from a wood stove he stood too close to. After he died, I'd taken it off the peg by the shop door and worn it myself, because nobody else wanted it. The zipper had died years before Pop did. He never fixed it. He said a coat you have to think about is a coat doing your thinking for you, and he left it open and went on planing his boards. So the safe I'd put the will in was the one thing of Pop's nobody else would touch. I didn't plan that, but the one object in that building Logan would never reach for turned out to be the one that kept Pop's words safe long enough to get it read. For the rest of my life, when people ask how a man with no lawyer and no plan beat a brother who owned the room, the true answer isn't a clever speech. Once, for 30 seconds, I trusted my hands over my head and hid a piece of paper in a coat with a broken zipper. I moved the weight to where the weight was safe and went back toward my chair, and that was where Logan found me again. He came at me easy, the way he came at everything, a fresh drink in his hand and the warm public face on. But his eyes had a question in them they hadn't had an hour ago. He'd reached for my coat and been told no, and a man like Logan doesn't forget being told no by a man like me. He stopped close, shoulder to shoulder, both of us facing the room so it looked like two brothers watching the party.
You feeling all right? You've gone pale on me.
I run hot, I said. Told you.
You did. You keep telling me things tonight. You okay to drive? I can have Dana grab your coat, get you set.
There it was again. The coat. He'd circled all the way back to it, casual as weather, and I understood he wasn't asking after my health. He was asking where the thing on me had gone, and he was asking it in the one way I couldn't refuse without telling him there was a thing. Already handed it off, I said. Left it up front. I'll grab it when I go.
Handed it off.
To the girl at the counter. Why?
No reason. Long night. I want my brother getting home in one piece.
I watched that land. For half a second, the warm face thinned because handed it off was exactly the wrong answer and exactly the right one. It told him the coat was out of his reach and gave him nothing to reach for.
Suit yourself. You always do.
And he patted my shoulder, the family gesture, The third time that sleeve had been patted in an hour and drifted back toward his bride. I stood there a moment longer, and then a different hand found my shoulder, lighter, older, no warmth performed in it, and it was Mercer. He steered me to the cake table. 4 tiers, white on white, sugar flowers down one side, and a topper that probably cost what I made in a week, more wedding than 2 careers could carry twice over. I'd think hard about that number in a minute. Once Mercer told me what Pop had actually left, and the cake stopped being a cake and started being evidence of a man spending money he'd already been given for free. He stood close so we could talk under the band, his back finding a wall by habit so he could see both ends of the room. He didn't ask where the envelope was. I think he could read it on me that it was somewhere good, and he let it lie. What he wanted to give me now wasn't a fact about a date. It was a fact about my brother. And it was the one fact that took the night I thought I was living and turned it into a different night entirely.
Can I ask you something? All this month, what's the story you've been telling yourself about why he did it?
I don't follow.
Every man's got a story for the brother who crosses him. Keeps him sane. What's yours?
That he got in over his head, I said. The wedding, the house, that he was scared.
So you've been thinking your brother needed the money.
He's underwater. He took it all because he needed it all. Everybody's seen the panic on him. The second mortgage talk, the way he laughs too hard when the down payment comes up. A drowning man grabs his own brother's hands and pushes off them. Ugly, but human. I can almost live with that man.
How much do you think your brother needed?
All of it. The wedding, the house, whatever the number is.
And if the number was already covered? If he could have walked away from this whole estate the day the old man died, and still kept every brick of that house in the hills, what then?
I stopped. I'd built a month of understanding on a man who was drowning, and Mercer had just asked me to picture that man standing on dry land. Then there'd be no reason to do any of this, I said.
No, he didn't need any of it. Your grandfather left it equal. Half to Logan, half to you clean, the day the old man died. No paper to file, no vote to win, no brother to erase. Logan's half was already his for doing nothing.
Then why the paper?
That's the right question. Wrong order. Do the math first. A man getting half who forges a document to get what?
I did the arithmetic standing there. I did it 3 times, because the first 2 times I assumed I'd dropped a number. To get half, I said slowly. He forged it to land in the same place he was already standing.
Less. He forged it to take less, and risk prison for the privilege. Sit with how strange that is.
That's not greed. Greed wants the bigger slice. He already had the slice.
No, it isn't greed.
Then what was he buying?
Think about what costs a man money and leaves him with less than he started. Not a thing. Not a thing you can hold up and show people. He was buying something you can't put in a box.
A man pays and gets nothing back, I said. That's not a deal anybody makes.
It's the deal men make most. You've watched your brother all month. What was the one thing he couldn't stand having out there in the world where people could see it?
I thought about Logan at the rehearsal. The place card sliding down the table. The word he'd used. Took in. Not family. The pleasure he took in saying it where 90 people could hear. Me, I said. He couldn't stand me being in it.
Closer. Not you. The proof of you. He could move your chair to the kitchen door. He could tell every guest at the party you were never really one of them. But he couldn't move the line.
What line?
The line in the will that names you. That's the thing he was buying. The right to say you were never named and have nothing on paper to call him a liar.
He paid a forgery for a sentence, I said.
He paid a forgery for the deletion of a sentence. The will names you.
He said it flat now, the way you rate a thing off a page so you don't have to own the weight of it.
To both my grandsons, equally, the one I raised and the one who stayed. Your grandfather wrote that line 11 months ago with a steady hand and recorded it, and it's downtown with a stamp and a number on it. As long as that line stands, you're named. Not took in. Named.
And Logan read that line.
Logan read that line. And then he went looking for a way to make it never have been written.
And I understood it then, all the way down. Logan didn't file his paper to take my half. He already had his. He filed it to take that sentence out of the world. The line was the target. The money was just what the line was attached to. He didn't forge it because he needed more. He forged it because half with my name beside his was still too much for him. The date is only the proof. His paper signed after the steady hand stopped being steady, the real one signed before, when Pop knew his own name and signed it the way he had for 60 years. 2 papers, 2 dates, one of them too late. But the date is just the how. The motive was the thing I carried out of that room and have not set down since. I kept thinking he hated me, I said. All month, I had it wrong.
What's the right word, then?
Hate would have been something. Hate means I was a person to him. I looked across the floor at my brother holding his glass. He didn't hate me. He just wanted the part of the record that said I existed to stop existing.
Now you've got it. Don't lose it in the next 10 minutes.
Why 10 minutes?
Because in a few minutes you're going to want to believe he was desperate. Men always do. He wasn't. He was comfortable, and he did it anyway. Hold on to that. It'll keep you from offering him a deal you'd regret.
He started to step away, and then he stopped, and his eyes went past my shoulder for a second toward the head table.
The bride's watching you, has been for a while.
She thinks I'm the bitter one. She's been told.
People who've been told don't watch this carefully. Watch what she does in the next hour, not what she's done all night. That one started counting.
He was right. The way he was right about most things that night before I caught up to them. It was the bride watching us. I'd had Brooke wrong along with everything else. She was the woman the whole evening was a stage for, married that weekend, in white, the center of every photograph. I'd met her 4 times, and each time she'd looked at me the way you look at a relative your husband has carefully warned you about. Polite. A little sorry for me, in a way that set my teeth on edge. She believed what she'd been handed, that I was the bitter one who never got over Logan, who only hung around the old man because there was a house at the end of it. But she was watching us. That was the new thing. She sat at the head table, turning a champagne glass by the stem, slow, her eyes coming back to the corner where Pop's cranky lawyer stood close to the brother-in-law nobody liked and talked low under the band. She couldn't hear a word. What she could see was the shape of it, that the lawyer everyone rolled their eyes at had crossed a wedding to stand by me, twice now, and by no one else. A bride 3 days married reads a room fast, and the room had stopped matching the story she'd been told. She had a number I didn't, I'd learn later. She lived in the house in the hills, and she'd been there one of the mornings Pop couldn't hold his own cup, and she knew the way you know where a stain is on your own floor, which season the old man had stopped being reliable. So some part of her was already laying that against a date she half remembered from the rehearsal night blur. She had a husband whose brother the family hated, a lawyer who'd crossed 2 rooms to stand by that brother, and a date in her own memory that didn't sit right. Not enough to act on, exactly enough to start to doubt. Then Carol drifted up to the head table, glass in hand, the family's appointed narrator making her rounds, and leaned down to say something in the bride's ear. I was close enough on the way back to my chair to catch the shape of it.
Don't mind Sam, sweetheart. He's always been like that. He never did get over Logan, and I think being near the money this weekend is hard for him.
The old Brooke would have nodded. She'd nodded 4 times in front of me. This Brooke turned her head a few degrees and looked at Carol. Not warm, not cold, just level. The look you give a person whose story has started to cost more than it's worth. Dana. More champagne at the table, Mrs. Cole? Brooke didn't answer Dana right away. She kept her eyes on Carol a beat longer.
You keep saying that. About the money. Why does everyone in this family keep telling me about Sam and the money?
Carol's sentence ran out before it finished. She covered it well. Carol covered everything well.
Oh, no one's saying anything, dear. I only meant be patient with him.
But the narrator had just hit the first listener in 2 days who didn't take the line, and a narrator feels that the way you feel a draft before you find the open window. The older woman straightened up and found a reason to be elsewhere. Brooke didn't come over. The easy version of this is the bride defecting in a rush of feeling, and that is not what happened. Not yet. She stayed in her chair. She turned her glass. Once, just once, she caught my eye across the floor, and instead of the polite sorry look she'd given me 4 times before, she gave me nothing, which from Brooke was new. The sorry was gone. The certainty under it was gone. Then Logan said something and she turned back and laughed, but the laugh came a half-second late, and I've learned the half-second is where the truth lives. Nothing had broken. But a hairline had opened in the one person my brother could least afford to lose, and neither of us knew yet that it ran all the way to the foundation. A bride 3 days married who'd watched the cranky lawyer cross a room to stand by the relative she'd been warned about. If a date in your own memory stopped matching the story your new husband told you, how long would you keep laughing on cue? Tell me. Mercer pulled me aside one last time before the thing he'd promised. We stood half in the service hall, the door propped on his shoe, where the dishwashers ran loud enough that nobody could catch us, and the music came through the kitchen muffled and warm. He'd gone quiet on the walk over, and I'd let him. Pop taught me that a quiet man working up to something is not a man you fill the air for. So I waited with a folded toast and an empty inside pocket. "You don't have to tell me anything," I said finally. "You've done more than enough tonight."
I know I don't have to. That's exactly why I'm going to. There's a thing I've never told a client in 31 years. You're about to watch your brother go down in front of his own wedding, and before you do, you should know why a man my age drove 2 hours to make sure it happened in the open.
"I know you were Pop's lawyer 31 years, I said. "The whole family knew it. The old man's cranky lawyer, the one who sent a Christmas card with no photo. What I don't know is why you'd drive 2 hours on a Friday night to stand uninvited in a wedding room. There are quiet ways. A letter, a filing, a motion on a Monday with the door shut and nobody's wedding ruined. You could have done all of this without ever standing in this room."
I could have.
"So why the room? Why in person? Why a wedding?" He didn't answer for a moment. He watched the dishwashers through the gap in the door, 2 kids in aprons working a steam line, and when he spoke, he didn't give me a speech. He told me about a family instead.
Not yours, long time ago. Early in my career, names you'll never know. An old woman, money, 2 sons.
"What happened to them?"
One son got to her late. When her hand wasn't steady anymore, there was a paper. The dates were off, the same way they're off here. Exactly the same way. I was young. The firm was big. The son who got there late was a paying client.
"And nobody stopped him?"
A partner told me to let it go. Said it wasn't mine to fix. Said nobody had asked.
"So you let it go," I said.
I let it go.
I waited. He didn't tell me it haunted him. He didn't say a word about regret or the weight of silence or any line a man says in a movie. He told me what he did. Flat, the way you read an inventory off a shelf.
I had the file. Everything was in it. The dates, the signatures, the proof. I closed the drawer.
"And the old woman?"
Died thinking both her boys would be looked after. She never saw the paper. The one who got there late made sure she never would.
"What happened to the file?"
I kept it in that drawer for years. Then one spring I cleaned the office and threw it out.
"Did that help?"
No. Throwing it out felt exactly the same as keeping it. That's the part nobody warns you about. You think the drawer is the problem. The drawer was never the problem.
He said it without any heat at all. He let the dishwashers run a second. Then he said the only thing in the whole telling that wasn't pure fact, and even that he kept to behavior.
I'm not standing by it twice.
That was the whole confession. No lesson hung off it. He didn't tell me what it meant, or what I owed Pop, or what family was. He told me about a drawer he'd closed once and was not going to close again. "Is that why you came tonight?" I said. "Because of her, the old woman."
I came tonight because of your grandfather, but yes, her too. A man only gets so many of these handed to him, and I've already wasted one.
He told me one more piece, and it was the only part where his voice changed, and even then it changed toward flatter, not bigger.
Your grandfather came into my office 11 months ago to make the real will. Steady on his feet, sharper than half my clients half his age. And before we got to a single number, he told me about the two of you in the shop.
"The chair," I said. I knew the story from the other side of it.
The chair. How he stood you both at the bench, put a clamp in each of your hands, and taught you to build one out of lumber and patience. How Logan finished his first and got praised for it, and never built another thing in his life. And how yours took 3 tries. Split the back rail twice, he said, and he made you start the rail over both times.
He told you that, in a lawyer's office.
He told me that, and then he told me what he wanted. Word for word, I still have it. Write it so neither one of them can be cut out by the other. Because I know my grandsons, Harold, and one of them will try.
The dishwashers ran. I didn't say anything, because there wasn't anything to say to a dead man being that right about his living grandson.
I thought he was just an old man being careful. I wrote the equal split, the recorded copy, the line about the one who stayed. Filed it, put it out of my mind. I did not believe Logan would actually do it.
And now?
Now I'm 2 hours from home, standing in a kitchen doorway. Your grandfather saw the flood coming and built the wall before the water. All I had to do tonight was come stand where the wall is and not move.
He said it like a man admitting the dead client had been smarter than the lawyer. Then he checked his watch, the kind with hands.
It's already done. The part that matters happened this afternoon, not tonight.
What part?
I filed for probate before I drove up. Took the original to the county building myself, walked it to the counter, waited for the stamp. It's in the system. There's a number on it. That happened at 4 o'clock, and it can't be made to unhappen.
I didn't fully understand the machine he was describing. I understood the shape of it, that something slow and official had started turning 2 hours away while my brother poured champagne. So whatever happens in there tonight?
Doesn't change the outcome. It changes who watches it land. I didn't come up here to win anything, Sam. The winning's over. I came up here so it lands in front of the people who clap.
And then he told me he'd brought someone with him tonight. Not for show. For one specific thing. He looked through the propped door at the lobby, and I followed his eyes, and that's when I saw her. A woman in a plain suit, standing just inside the lobby doors, away from the wedding, with a slim folder under one arm and her eyes on her phone. She wasn't a guest. Nobody had set a place for her. She had the stillness of someone who'd done whatever she was about to do in 100 rooms and felt nothing in any of them. "Who is she?" I said.
Someone who does this for a living.
"Does what?"
Hands a man a thing he can't refuse and watches him take it.
"She's a guest of yours?"
She's nobody's guest. Nobody set a place for her. That's the point of her.
"Then why bring her?" I said. "You told me it's already done. Filed, stamped, a number on it. If the part that matters happened at 4 o'clock, what's left for a stranger in a plain suit to do at a wedding?"
The paper does the law. It doesn't do the room. A filing downtown is a true thing nobody in here can feel. She's the part they feel.
"You could have sent her Monday," I said. "An office, a closed door."
I could have. You keep offering me the quiet door, Sam. I keep telling you no. Monday in a closed office, your brother takes it standing up, alone, and walks out the same man he walked in. That's not what your grandfather paid me to deliver.
And here?
Here he takes it in front of every face that clapped. That's the difference between a thing being true and a thing being seen. Your grandfather already made it true. I drove 2 hours to make it seen.
He'd brought her 2 hours up the highway in the same car, and he hadn't said a word about her until now. And now she was walking into a wedding straight at a groom who didn't know her face. I asked him the only question left. What does she do when she gets to him? He watched her come, the calm on him not changing, and he leaned in close under the music and told me not who she was, but what she'd driven 2 hours to do. One word. He said it the way you tell a man the time of day.
Fraud.
He let it sit there a second.
Logan's the only man in this room who doesn't know it's already over. He'll find out the way they all find out. In front of everyone, with no door left to walk it back through.
He said it the way you'd tell a man the tide had already turned. Not a threat. Just the time of day again, because some men need to hear the hour twice before they'll believe the day is ending. What I felt, watching the woman in the plain suit cross the lobby toward my brother, was not what you'd expect. Not triumph. I'd pictured this turning hot. Pictured myself saying the thing that finally landed. The sentence that wiped the warm look off Logan's face for good. Instead, I felt level. The way a board feels level after you've planned it down and finally set it true and it stops fighting your hand. The fight was over, like Mercer said. All that was left was carrying the proof across a room and setting it down where it would hold. I looked at the corner table. My exile chair, pushed tight against the linen, the swan napkin still folded on the seat, aimed at the kitchen doors the way it had been all night. Like Pop himself had set it there to point me at the one door that mattered. Logan had meant it as the last insult, the seat for the man who could only carry chairs, the place where the help comes and goes. He had no way of knowing the help was about to come and go through that exact door, in a plain suit, carrying a folder with his name in it. I watched her cross the floor. She didn't hurry and she didn't hesitate, and she didn't look at the cake or the band or the 200 guests, because none of them were the thing she'd come for. She moved through that wedding the way water moves through a room with the door left open, finding the one low place and going straight to it. The one low place was my brother. He was holding court near the head table, glass up, mid-sentence, the warm look on full, and I saw the exact moment some animal part of him registered a stranger walking at him with purpose. He didn't stop talking, but his eyes flicked to her and held a half-second too long, the way Carol's had held on my coat, the way a man's eyes catch on the one wrong thing in a room he thought he owned. He didn't know her face. He didn't know her name. He was about to learn both in front of 90 people who'd clapped when he slid my place card down to the kitchen doors. And the woman in the plain suit reached the edge of the floor where my brother stood with a glass in his hand and a room in his palm, and Mercer let the door come off his shoe, and the music got loud, and we went in. The cornering happened 10 minutes before the toasts, in the narrow service hall behind the kitchen, the one with the warming trays and the bleach smell and the dishwashers that never quit. I'd gone back there to be away from people. Logan followed me. He did that. Followed you when he wanted something, the same way he'd followed Pop around the last year with a pen in his pocket. He had a glass of champagne in his hand. He always had one by then. He held it the way some men hold a phone, like it proved he belonged where he was standing. He came close, and he had the warm face on, the golden sun face.
You came back here to sulk. That's fine. Sulk where the help can't hear you.
I let that sit. Then I gave him the only thing I'd come back there carrying. I said it flat, the way you read an address off a box, because I wanted to watch what his face did with it. I know about the will, I said. The real one, the recorded one. I'd braced for something to move in his face. Nothing did. He took a slow sip and looked at me over the rim.
You think this is news to me?
Then tell me what you knew, I said.
I knew what the old man wrote, word for word. I just wasn't going to split it with someone who was never really one of us.
I said it back to him slow, to be sure the room of my own head had heard it right. You knew there was a clean will, I said. You knew it named us both, and you forged one anyway.
I corrected a mistake. Pop got soft at the end. Somebody had to think straight for the family.
You already had your half, Logan, I said. Free and clear. There was nothing left to take, so tell me why you'd bury the other one. His face did the worst thing it could have done. It relaxed.
Because it had your name on it. In his handwriting. I wasn't going to leave that lying around.
Say the rest of it, I said. You're already most of the way there.
There's no rest. He wrote your name where it didn't belong. I took it out. People take typos out of documents every day.
A typo, I said.
A correction.
And there it was, in the bleach and the warming tray heat, said in the same easy voice he used to order a drink. It took away the last comfortable thing I'd been carrying, the desperate brother story, the one where Logan was weak instead of cold. He'd had options in daylight, and he'd chosen. So he didn't do it for the money. He had the money. He did it to take a word out of the world. The word was family, and it had my name on it in Pop's own hand. He couldn't hold his own pen that year, I said. You know that. He stopped writing his own checks. He asked me to fill them out so he'd only have to sign. And on a day I wasn't there to fill anything out, you sat that hand down at the kitchen table and slid a page under it. Say what that was.
He signed it. Nobody held his hand. He read it, and he signed it like a grown man.
He couldn't read the afternoon paper by then without you telling him what it said, I said.
Then he was lucky he had someone willing to tell him. You sat out in that shop on Sundays, talking to a man who was already gone, and called it loyalty. I did the thinking nobody else would.
You did the signing nobody else would, I said.
Pop was confused at the end. It happens. You should be grateful I let you come tonight at all.
He said it and he meant it. He believed letting the erased brother stand by the kitchen doors was a kindness, and that I owed him for it. Grateful, I said.
Most men in my position wouldn't have sent the invitation. I did. So don't stand back here and look at me like that.
I'm not looking at you like anything, Logan, I said. I'm just looking. He drank from the glass and looked at me over the rim the way you look at a vendor who's quoted you high.
You always did this. Stand there quiet so everyone thinks you're the deep one. Pop fell for it 9 years. I never did.
I know, I said. You're the bright one. He said so himself. That landed somewhere I hadn't aimed. He straightened his jacket, and the warm face came back up over whatever had moved under it.
Be in your seat for the toasts. I want this clean, no scene. You've had your little talk.
I'll be in my seat, I said. And he went back through the doors to his reception, because the toasts were starting, and Logan Cole never in his life missed a chance to stand up in a lit room and be looked at. I stood in that hallway a moment longer. The part of me that had wanted to fight him all night had gone very quiet. Not beaten, just done. You can't argue a man out of a thing he chose with his eyes open. You can only let the truth come through the door behind him. The picture I'd kept turning away from all month, I'd just made him say out loud. Pop's last year. The good grandson at last. A pen in his pocket and the kitchen table in the late afternoon, and an old man tired enough to sign what was put gently in front of him. I touched the inside pocket of my jacket once, out of habit, before I remembered it was empty. The envelope wasn't there. I'd hidden it across the room hours ago, in a broken coat at the front, and Mercer had told me that morning to bring it shut and not open it. I'd kept that promise for 30 hours, still shut, still unopened. I let my hand drop, and I walked back out toward the corner by the kitchen doors, to the chair my brother had given me, and I sat down in it, and I waited. When I learned Pop had left it equal, that Logan already had his share free and clear and forged the paper anyway, I stopped calling it greed. What would you have called it? Because Mercer had told me one more thing that morning, and only one. Be in your seat at the toasts. Don't move. Let me come to you. The chair faced the only door that mattered. Now I'll tell you who came through that door. I'm going to tell it slow because it happened slow, and I have earned the right to take my time with this one. The reception had its own gravity by then, maybe 100 people, the wine 3 glasses deep, the laughter gone loose and warm the way a room's does late. Aunt Carol was holding court at table 2, leaning into the woman beside her, loud enough to carry.
He only ever stuck around the old man for the end of it. Mark me, the bitter ones always do.
She had her hand over her heart when she said it. The woman beside her nodded.
9 years of playing the devoted one. And for what? You watch. He'll have something to say before the cake's cut.
She talked about me in the past tense, 10 feet away, the way you talk about a chair you've already decided to throw out, as if I weren't sitting right there in my good jacket with my hands flat on my knees. Logan was at the head table by the windows with Brooke beside him in white. She wasn't laughing at his jokes the way she had the night before. She turned her glass by the stem, slow, watching the room more than she watched her husband. I didn't know yet exactly what she'd put together. For now, she just turned the glass and watched. Logan stood up to thank everyone. He tapped his fresh champagne with a fork, that small, bright sound that pulls 100 faces toward one man, and his voice did the warm thing it could do, the one true gift Pop meant when he called him the bright one.
Best night of my life. I mean that. And I'll tell you the thing I keep coming back to. Family. Family is everything. It's the only thing the old man ever really left any of us.
He said the word family standing 8 feet from the chair where he'd exiled his brother for not being it, and he did not look at the chair.
Now, somebody promised me there's cake under all this glass, so I'll sit down before Brooke takes the fork off me.
And the room laughed at his little joke. He'd had rooms in the palm of his hand our whole lives. And behind him and to his left, the swinging service door beside the kitchen began to open. It opened slow. Service doors do when the person pushing them isn't in a hurry, and the man pushing it was not in a hurry. Harold Mercer came through the door beside the kitchen, the door my chair faced, the door my brother had pointed me at like a punchline 2 nights running, carrying a leather folder under one arm and walking like a man who'd been to a great many rooms worse than this one. He was the cranky lawyer the family rolled their eyes at, his suit 20 years out of date and pressed like a blade. He stopped 2 steps in and looked around the room once, slow, the way Pop used to look around the workshop to count who was missing. Then he found me in the corner chair, and he gave me one short nod, one. I gave it back. And then he did the thing I hadn't expected. He did not come to me. He turned away from the corner, away from the obvious move of reaching the wronged man first, and walked up the center of the room, between the round tables, straight toward the head table, and the man still standing there with a glass in his hand and a toast going thin in his throat. He let the room watch him do it. He used their confusion the way Pop used a clamp. Slow pressure, no noise. The room felt him before it understood him. The laughter thinned table by table. Logan saw him last, because Logan had been looking out at his audience, and an audience's faces all turning the same wrong direction is its own kind of warning. He turned. Mercer reached the head table and set the leather folder on the white cloth beside the cake. And then, this is the part the whole night had been holding shut for 30 hours, the part I'd carried in a broken coat and never once looked at. He opened it. He had old hands, and he didn't rush them. He drew out a single document, thick, blue-backed, the corner stamped, and laid it flat where the light from the glass cake table came up under it from below, so the page seemed lit from inside. Then he reached in again and took out a second, the one Logan had filed, the control paper, the one my brother had waved at the family for 2 days as the truth, and laid it beside the first. Squared the edges. 2 papers, side by side, on my brother's wedding table, lit from underneath.
Excuse me, do you know whose wedding this is?
I'd heard that voice work on maitre d's and parking attendants my whole life. Mercer didn't answer it. He didn't turn his head. He went on squaring the second paper as if Logan were a draft from a door left open.
I'm talking to you. This is a private event. Whoever let you in is going to answer for it.
Mercer let the sentence run out of road. He did not hurry to fill the gap, and a gap a man like Logan can't fill is the loudest thing in a room. Then, only then, he looked up.
My name is Harold Mercer. I was Raymond Cole's attorney for 31 years. Some of you knew him as Pop.
A little run of murmuring went around the near tables at the name. Half that room had heard Pop curse the old lawyer's stubbornness across a Thanksgiving table. The other half had heard him trust the man with everything that mattered. They knew the name. The name landing in the room ahead of the paper was its own kind of footing. He put one finger flat on the blue-back document. Just rested it there the way you keep a hand on a board you're about to cut so it doesn't slip, and he spoke to the room instead of the man.
This is his last will and testament. It is recorded. It is notarized. It is the only one he ever signed in front of me, with a steady hand, 11 months before he died. I'm going to read you one line. 2 nights ago, in this room, a young man stood up and told you what it said. He was lying to you, and I'm going to show you in his grandfather's own hand.
That's enough. Put it down. You don't get to walk into my wedding and do this.
I'll be done in 1 sentence, Mr. Cole. You can give me the 1 sentence.
Logan reached for the paper. Mercer moved it half an inch, the way you move a cup away from a child, without looking, and kept his finger on it.
Give it to me. That is family property, and you are holding it in front of my guests.
It stops being yours to hold the moment I read it.
Logan's hand closed on the white cloth instead of the page, and he left it there, flat, fingers spread, the way you press down on a board to stop it walking on you. I knew that hand. It was the first time all night I'd seen him hold on to something instead of holding it up for a room to admire.
I leave my estate, the house on Brookfield and all that remains, to both my grandsons equally, the one I raised and the one who stayed.
The one I raised and the one who stayed. He read it once, plain, the way Pop had written it. Not like a verdict. Like a man reading another man's words at his graveside, which in a way he was. He read it at the speed Pop talked, which was the speed of a man who'd never once needed to hurry you to a point. Then he stopped. He didn't fold the paper or set it down. He left it there, lit from under, his finger flat on it, and he looked at no one. A glass touched a plate somewhere at the back, and the sound carried the whole length of the room. That's how quiet it had gone. Nobody filled it. There was nothing in anybody's mouth that would have fit. The fork-tapping warmth Logan had built in that room came apart in about 4 seconds, table by table, as 100 people did the arithmetic on 1 sentence. The one who stayed. They all knew which one stayed. They'd spent 2 days being told he was the bitter outsider who only hung around for the money. And here was a stamped paper in a dead man's own hand, calling that outsider a grandson, by name, equally, in the room that had clapped at his erasing. Table 2, where Carol still sat with her hand half raised toward her heart, went first. I saw her hand come down, then the table behind it, then the far ones by the windows. The math came out the same at every table, and the answer was sitting in a wobbling gold chair by the kitchen doors with his hands flat on his knees. I did not move. Mercer had told me don't move, and now I understood why. The will had to reach me, not me reach it. The faces started to find me. First one, then a turning, then a whole room that had spent 2 days looking away from the corner finally looking at it. I'd imagined I'd feel large. I didn't. I felt very still. I kept my hands flat on my knees and kept them from shaking, the one thing I'd set out to do the night they laughed. And nobody had needed me to lift them. The will lifted them for me. Then Mercer did the second thing. He turned slightly toward the kitchen doors, and a woman stepped out from beside them. She'd been there the whole time, come in behind him, stood against the wall where the staff stand, in a plain charcoal suit with a slim folder of her own. I'd taken her for a coordinator earlier. She was not a coordinator. She walked up the center of the room the same unhurried way Mercer had, and did not soften a thing.
Mr. Cole, my name is Miss Reyes. I'm with the bank's fraud unit. As of this evening, there is a hold on every account in your name connected to the Cole estate. You won't be moving funds out of them tonight or tomorrow, pending review.
There's a mistake. Call your supervisor. Right now from here. Do you have any idea whose name is on those accounts?
I do. It's the name on the hold.
Then take it off. Whatever you put on, you take it off tonight.
It's already done, Mr. Cole. It went through while Mr. Mercer was reading.
Then undo it. I'll have it cleared by morning. I know people at that bank.
I don't undo holds in a banquet room, sir. Neither does my supervisor. Neither do the people you know.
This is my account, my grandfather's estate. You cannot walk in and freeze a man's own money.
The flag isn't mine, Mr. Cole. It came up the moment a second will was filed against the first. The system did it. I'm only the person they sent to tell you to your face instead of by letter.
Then send someone with the authority to fix it. Tonight. I'll wait.
There isn't someone, sir. Not tonight, and not the way you mean it tomorrow. The hold stays up while the two wills are in front of a judge. That's everyone above me, and everyone above them.
She said it the way you read a weather report. No satisfaction in it, no heat. That was the part that took the floor out from under him. He had a whole life's worth of moves for a person who was angry at him. He had nothing for a person who simply wasn't.
You're enjoying this.
No, sir. You can call the number on this card on Monday.
The warm voice had stopped working because the warm voice runs on a room agreeing with you, and the room had quit agreeing with him about 90 seconds ago, somewhere around the word stayed. She set a business card on the white cloth next to the two wills. 3 pieces of paper now beside the cake, and not one of them was the one Logan had waved around for 2 days. And then the third thing, which Mercer said almost as an afterthought, hands folded.
I filed the recorded will with the probate court this afternoon, along with the form your brother submitted. The court will set the dated one aside. It was signed after your grandfather could no longer sign reliably. The date is right there on the paper, and we can prove what he was by then. You'll be removed from the role you assigned yourself, and you'll be asked to return what was moved.
You can't prove a date means anything. He signed it. That's his signature.
It is his signature. That's the saddest part of the file, son, and it won't help you. The district attorney's office has the same paper I do. They're opening a matter. Forgery and the financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I won't tell you how that ends, but it began today, and it will not unbegin.
Served, frozen, removed, 3 doors closing one after another in the room my brother had built to be looked at in. He had wanted 100 people to watch him. He got his wish. And I'll tell you the part nobody planned, the part that wasn't in any folder. The will was the weight. The freeze was the teeth. The court and the DA were the long shadow across the next year of his life. But the thing I actually watched was smaller than any of it, and it took about 2 seconds, and I'd have missed it if Mercer hadn't put me in the seat that faced that table. Logan still had the champagne glass in his hand. He'd held it through the whole thing from the toast on. He never put a glass down, my brother. And he started to say something. He got 2 words into it.
This is.
And it stopped. Not trailed off. Stopped the way a saw stops when it hits a nail. He stood there with his mouth still open on the shape of the next word, and nothing came out of it. The bright one. The one Pop named for his gift with a room, and the room had taken the gift back, and he had no second sentence. He tried again. I watched him try, watched his jaw move and reset.
You all know me. You know I would never.
And that one died too, in the middle, on the word never, because the back half of the sentence depended on the room nodding, and the room had stopped nodding. He had run on that nod his whole life. Without it, the words came apart in his mouth before they got out. He looked from face to face for the one that would carry him, the way he always found one.
Carol, tell them. You were there. You heard what Pop wanted.
But Carol had her eyes down on the cloth and her hand was in her lap now, and she did not pick her head up, and that was the loudest no in the room.
Marcus, buddy, you've known me 20 years. Stand up and tell this room who I am.
Marcus looked at the tablecloth, too. He'd been the one Logan handed the toast to 2 nights running. The best friend, the safe vote. And even the safe vote had no floor left under it.
Somebody in here knows me. Pop called me the bright one. He said it at this table. Tell them.
Nobody told them anything. The word bright sat in the room and died there. He tried for the warm face, and it wouldn't set. He shifted his weight, and his weight didn't seem to be under him. He put a hand flat on the cloth to steady himself, the way a man does on a deck that's moved. Fingers spread wide on the white linen, pressing down like the table might hold him up if the room wouldn't. For the first time in the 2 days I'd been watching him work that room, Logan Cole could not find the next thing to say, and you could see him reach for it, and you could see it not be there. His hand came down with the glass. Not thrown, not slammed, just set, the loose, careful way you set a glass down when you've stopped quite feeling your own arm, onto the edge of the glass-topped cake table. He wasn't looking at it. He was looking at the 2 wills lit from below, and the stem met the glass top at a wrong angle, a small wrong angle, the kind Pop would have caught in a joint with one look and made you do over. And the stem cracked. Not a smash. One note. A small, clean sound, high and final. And I will tell you exactly what that sound was, because I'd been hearing it my whole life without knowing I was listening for it. When we were boys in the shop, Logan built his one chair, the one Pop praised, and he built it fast and never built another. Not because he couldn't, but because the first one got him the praise, and there was no reason to risk a second. He'd glued it fast and shoved the joints home before the fit was true, because finished got him looked at. Mine I clamped and left open and waited on the glue, because Pop stood over me and made me. And there's a thing about a joint you've forced instead of fit. It holds for a while. It holds long enough to fool you. And then one day, under the smallest wrong weight, it lets go all at once with a single high crack. The sound of a thing that was never really joined finally admitting it. That high, clean note off the cake table was the exact sound of Logan's one chair giving way. 25 years late. In front of 100 people. The joint had never held. It had only looked like it held. A thin line of champagne ran out across the mirror top, caught the light from below, and threw it back up bright across my brother's face. He looked down at the cracked stem in his hand, the bowl gone sideways, the way you look at the one thing in a room you hadn't braced to lose. The house and the roll and the frozen accounts and the dead man's word were abstractions he could still argue with on Monday. The broken glass in his own hand was real and was now and could not be argued with. He set the ruined stem down on the cloth, very carefully, the way you set down something that's already cut you. And for the first time in 2 days, in the lit room he had built to be admired in, Logan Cole had nothing warm to say, and no cold thing either, and no thing at all. Nobody clapped. I noticed that. 2 nights before, this room had clapped at my erasing, a full warm round, 100 people applauding a man who'd just slid his brother's name toward the trash. Now that same man stood with a broken glass and the truth on the table beside the cake, and the room that loved an audience gave him nothing. No gasp, no murmur even. They just looked. The way people look at a chair that finally went out from under someone and wonder, quiet, how long it had been wobbling before it went. And then Brooke stood up. She did it slow in her white dress, and she did not look at her husband. She picked something up off the cloth in front of her, stepped out from behind the head table, and the room watched the bride move. She walked the length of it, past the silent tables, and her path took her right past Logan, close enough to touch him.
Brooke, sit down. Don't do this in front of them. They don't know the whole story. They only heard one line.
It was the most words he'd gotten out since the will hit the table, fast and low, just for her. The warm voice trying one last time on the one person in the room he most needed it to work on.
Brooke, look at me. I will explain every word of it. Just sit down.
She did not slow, and she did not turn her head, and she did not say his name back. The room let her have her quiet. Nobody moved a chair. Nobody coughed. She walked past her husband of 3 days in her wedding dress, with the band stopped and the floor silent. Past Carol, whose hand was frozen halfway to her chest, past the cake and the 2 wills and the cracked glass, all the way to the corner by the kitchen doors where I sat. She stopped in front of me and set what she was holding on the table beside my exiled place card, the one that had sat there untouched for 2 days. She said one thing to me, low, just for the corner.
This is yours, I think it always was.
Then she turned and walked out the far doors, the ones the guests had come in through, and she did not come back. Nobody followed her. A bride had crossed her own wedding in silence and walked out past her own husband, and there was nothing left to say about whose side anyone was on, because she'd just shown them with her feet. Forgiveness, I decided later, is a chair you set at the head of a table. Reconciliation is a different word, and I never offered Logan that one. Which one would you have offered him? Mercer came to me last. He gathered the papers back into the leather folder, unhurried, squared them, strapped it shut. Ms. Reyes was already gone, back out the kitchen door, the way she'd come. And the old lawyer walked down the center of the room one more time, past all of them, reached the corner, and stood over me a moment. He didn't smile. I don't think I ever once saw Harold Mercer smile.
Your grandfather told me, if it ever came to this, the one who stayed would be sitting closest to the door. He was right. Go home, Sam. It's done here.
Why tonight? I said. You had this paper for a year. You could have stopped him filing the other one in a quiet office on a Tuesday. Why let it get this far?
Because a quiet office would have fixed the paper and left the rest of it standing. He told me, if Logan ever tried it, read the real one out loud wherever Logan had put you down. Not in a courthouse. In the room that did it. He named the room Sam. This one.
He said that.
Word for word, I keep the words. It's the one thing I'm good for. Go home.
It's done, I said. And it was the only other thing I said out loud in that room the whole night. And I said it to the one man in it who'd known the truth as long as I'd been kept from it. I got up out of the gold wobbling chair my brother had given me, left it empty in the corner, picked up what Brooke had set down, and walked out through the kitchen doors, the only door that mattered, past the bus tubs and the warm bread smell and the dishwashers, out into a parking lot where the night was cold and quiet, and nobody was applauding anything at all. Here's what happened after, told quick. Because I don't believe in the long crawl of paperwork, and I won't make you sit through it. The court did what Mercer said it would. The dated form went where it belonged. The estate split the way Pop wrote it. Equal, both grandsons by name. There was a number that came to me out of it. A real number, the kind that changes a life if you let it. What Brooke set down in front of me that night, I can tell you now. It was the toast, the one I'd written for my brother, carried folded in my pocket 2 days. She didn't take it off my corner table, though. She came by the shop a week later before she left town and told me where she'd found it.
It was in the trash by the kitchen doors, the same corner they put your place card in. Somebody balled it up and threw it out.
I have a guess who, I said.
So do I. I fished it out and smoothed it flat and kept it. I don't know why that night, except that it seemed like the only true thing in the room. I'm sorry I believed the easy story about you as long as I did.
I'd been losing to that easy story for 2 days myself, I said. It let everybody keep eating cake. I understood why a whole room picked it up so fast. She didn't stay married long. That's her business. She brought my place card back too. The one Logan had slid to the kitchen corner, my name printed on it and 2 words in his pencil under it I won't write again. We aren't friends. We were 2 people standing in the same wrong room once, and then one of us got up and walked across it in a wedding dress. The house on Brookfield got split and sold. That part of it had to be money, and money it stayed. The shop didn't. That was the one thing I wouldn't let go to the market with the rest. Pop's wood shop, the low building behind the house with the bad roof and the wood stove and the wide bench, where he stood the 2 of us down as boys and put a clamp in our hands and taught us to build a chair that wouldn't wobble. It had sat locked 9 years, clamps still on the wall, biggest to smallest, a couple of half-finished frames on the bench, like Pop meant to come back to them in the morning. I put the half of the money that wasn't tied up in the house into that shop. Not as a gesture. A roof, new locks, 3 machines pulled apart and tuned. I swept 9 years of sawdust off the floor myself on my knees, and I didn't mind it. It's a place now where kids from the Brookfield blocks come after school and on Saturdays and learn to build something that holds. The clamps still hang biggest to smallest because that's the order I learned them in, and I never thought to change it. The first thing every kid who walks in builds is a chair. That was Pop's rule for Logan and me, and it's my rule for them. They thought what Pop left us was the house. It was the chair he taught us to build. Mine still holds. There's a long table in the front room now, where the kids eat lunch on Saturdays. At the head of it, I put a chair I built myself this past winter, out in Pop's shop with Pop's clamps. From one of those half-finished frames he'd left on the bench 9 years ago, finished slow, the joints clamped and left open and weighted on, the glue doing the holding while I was patient enough to let it. Tight joints. No wobble. And on the seat, under a little square of glass so the kids don't spill juice on it, I set my place card, the one Brooke gave back, my name, printed at the head of the table. Not the corner by the kitchen, the head. There was a Saturday last month. A kid named Devin, 8 years old, brought me his first chair, and one back leg rocked a 1/4 inch on the concrete, and his whole face fell. "Is it junk?" he said. "It's not junk," I said. "You just shoved the joint home before it was ready. Everybody does that the first time. Here." I got down next to him the way Pop used to get down next to me, and I put my hand over his on the clamp. "Leave it open," I said. "Don't force it. The glue does the holding. You just have to be patient enough to let it. Can you wait?" He could. He waited. The chair held. Logan does not call. I did not ask him to. The chair I built this winter sits at the head of that table, and a kid named Devin eats lunch 3 seats down from it, and on Saturdays the room is loud with children who have no idea any of this ever happened, learning where the joint goes. If your brother told 90 people you were never really family, and the truth came walking through the kitchen door at the end of it, what would you have signed your half into? Until next time.